Hello guys, welcome to the Trading Parrot. How many times have you looked at the chart like this and focus on the most recent price action just to notice that you're having many consecutive candles in the same color? Like for example, here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 candles in green. Every time I notice something like this, the first question that comes to my head is, when was the last time that we did 8 candles? The second question is, what's the maximum number of green consecutive candles that we ever had in an asset? Particularly here, we are looking at DXY index, and we have had already 8 weeks in green, which is not great for risk-on assets. So it's a natural question to ask yourself to have an idea if you should expect potentially more candles, because that maybe is something typical in this asset, or maybe this is an all-time high in terms of number of candles. If we look back in time on the DXY, we're going to find some areas like this one where you have plenty of weeks without having a single red candle, and there's also some areas with loads of consecutive red candles. But it must be pretty annoying to just have to look at the whole history, and even if you zoom out, it's not really clear for how long should you expect to see consecutive candles in the same color. So I decided to create this indicator that is called TTP green-red consecutive candles. It's an open source and free to use indicator. You're going to be able to find it if you type TTP green and red consecutive candles when you're using the indicator search. And in today's video, I'm going to show you how you can use it to analyze the macro, to set some expectations both for number of green candles, red candles. We're going to look at these maximums that are always increasing. And I'm going to show you how you can use the settings in the script to use it also as a signal. Guys, if you like this kind of content, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel, hit the like, enable that notification bell, and you know the best thing that you can do for this channel is to watch the full video until the end and leave a comment below. Alright, so what is this indicator allowing me to do? Well, if you zoom in on this area on the DXY, which is an area that many people are currently paying attention, you're gonna see how it starts counting the number of green candles in this green line, whereas the red remains in the horizontal 0. Once we get the first red, the green resets and we start counting red candles. If we zoom out a little bit, you're going to notice that there's also a histogram behind the counting bars around here. This histogram is formed by moving averages. In this case, by default, it comes with moving averages calculated on the counting spikes that you have here. So this is smoothing out the counting. Instead of being just spikes, it's giving you like a curve where you can see overall what is the trend. For example, in here, the MA comes back down and then it starts coming back towards the 0. One pretty cool thing that you can do is you can enable the show distribution values, and I'm going to explain what is this. So this is telling me how many times we have this number of consecutive same colors. 330 times we just had one green bar and then we flip to red. 158 times we have 2 green bars and then flip to red, and so on. This one here that it shows a 1 in the green is 12, and it means that only one time we have 12 consecutive green bars. You can also see that when that happened, and it was around here when we moved from a maximum of 9 to 12 consecutive green lines in the DXY for the first time in history. The same you can do here in 1975, we have 20 red candles consecutive. And in distribution, you're going to find that there's a 1 there at the position 20, showing that only once we have done that, as opposed to 347 times that we immediately flip from red back into green. The maximums are shown there. So for green is 13 candles, for red is 21. And if you change the time frame, like for example here we have the DXY in the monthly, and we can see that no more than 10 months in green and no more than 12 months in red. Of course, we can look into any other asset. Here we have Bitcoin in the monthly. Let's go to daily and we can see it like this. Now let's focus on what can we do in terms of automation. In this channel we cover bots. There's two different signals that you can extract from this information. I'm going to explain the two different signals that you can use. The first signal is the signal threshold. If you put a 5 here, it means that either the counter of green consecutive bars or the counter of red consecutive bars, if it reaches 5 or more, is going to trigger a signal. So let me show this in an example. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 red candles, which are shown in the counter line around here. And you're going to notice that here in the data window, once we reach 5, the threshold long signal in blue switches from 0 to 1, which means that in this candle there, we can use this as an entry when we have 5. If you want to wait furthermore, you can increase this threshold and say that at level 8, you're going to be entering. So that will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And precisely there, you have the threshold long signal. In the candle before, you don't have signal. That means that you can backtest this. And by looking at the distribution from the far distance, you might decide that certain areas are more recurrent and maybe use that in combination with other indicators as an entry. So that's the signal number 1, which is based on simple threshold. And I left here the show distribution values so you can see how many times each of these thresholds have been met and how many times it was much more than that. So for example, 8 is located somewhere here, but you still had some more for Bitcoin. In this case, we have up to 9. And then the second signal, which is a little bit more sophisticated, but at the same time more interesting, is the one based on moving average. As you can see, we are not just plotting the counting lines, but we are also doing an MA of that with this histogram. And our signal is going to consist in every time that the counter is, in this case, below the MA, and for the greens, every time the counter is above the MA. But since the MA is very narrow here, you can manipulate the signal by either changing the length of the moving average or the factor, which is just a simple multiplier. So let's start with the length. If we increase this length to 200, it's going to become very square and rarely moving that much because it's too many candles. If you want it more reactive, then keep it in a lower number and you can use the factor so the MA becomes closer to these peaks. So for example, if I use 3 as a factor, then you're going to notice that the MA almost is reaching the level of the signal. In the data window, you're going to find separate backtesting signals. You have the threshold short, threshold long, which is the previous signal I was explaining, and you also have the MA short and MA long. Those are the ones that correspond to this last approach where we're looking for times where the counter line is higher than its own MA. I think for Bitcoin 3 is a little bit too much. Maybe a 2.5 will give us a better hedge. Here, if we zoom in, we're going to see that sometimes the counter is above, but not all of the times. So you want to find places like this where you can argue that we are above the mean in terms of number of candles right there. And therefore, this could be a potential good area to short, right? Like for example, that one. You also have a peak around here. And you can also long, like places like this or like this. As I explained, this is backtestable. All the data is appearing in the data window. So you can connect it with any other indicator. Members of TTP can use Absolute No. You can use ADB or any of the different backtesters that we have and then send alerts as well. In the next few days, I'm going to be adding a few extra things to the indicator. I'm going to show with labels every time that the signal is happening, especially the one of the MA. I'm going to add as well alerts, but let me know in the comments if there's anything else that you would like to see added to this new indicator. Thanks so much for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and do not go anywhere without leaving a comment below. Thank you so much. Bye bye.